Hello and welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to continue with the generation of our starting in the green dragon. We've had the just to get us back in the mood, we've got the characters coming down the stairs. There's a murmur of talking and laughing, and the smells of delicious food. There's some singing in the background, a lament about Beric the Brave and how he slayed the evil black dragon of Quagmire Marsh. It's all very atmospheric. So where we left it was on the rules. Was to do generate some occupants, but before we do that, first thing I'd like to do is go back. We called this the Green Dragon, and I didn't really have a rationale to doing that, but I think I probably missed a trick when I did this, because we'd also talked about the red lion. Why didn't I call it the red dragon? And I was minded to come in and intervene and turn the clock back and then turn that to the red dragon. But I considered this and I thought, no, I shouldn't do that. There shouldn't be any change. Once something has been written down, and has been set down, and we've agreed it on camera, that's the way it's going to be defined. It's going to remain as canon or world lore or something. I did actually have a look while I was researching it, just at the dragon entry, and see if there was anything that could kind of link these creatures to the area. Now the red dragon, I love. Yeah, don't you just love that picture? It's so, ooh, it's scary. That's really what a dragon should be all about, that type of thing. Yes, the red dragon is usually found dwelling in great hills or mountainous regions. So that would have been appropriate, because we are kind of in that zone. As with most others of this species, they make their lairs in subterranean caves and similar places. They are very greedy and avaricious. Of all evil dragons, this sort is the worst, save for Tiamat herself. Nasty piece of work. One day I'll tell you about our adventures confronting Tiamat, the chromatic dragon, and what a nasty piece of work she was. The green dragon. And that doesn't really maybe look quite as impressive, but it probably would make quite a good, the signage outside the inn, and it's got one of these big things that kind of move from side to side in the wind. Probably having a good, have that in profile. I think this might actually put visitors off a bit. Having that kind of, facing those eyes looking into yours. I think that this is maybe a bit more, yes. So I think the green, and also the location, they prefer underground layers near woods or forests of the bleaker, wilder sort if possible. Well, hey, this is our country. So yeah, green dragon. And also I think it illustrates another principle that, once we've made a decision, don't go back in time. We don't have a time machine. We're not going to go back. We're not going to change it. We just live with the consequences. Oh yes, the other one was, I don't want there to be, I was thinking, when we did the occupants, and we said, where did we say it? Did we actually write it down? No, we didn't. When we did the occupants, which I'm going to detail in more detail down here, we said when we rolled it, we rolled 2 plus 1d4, and we got 3. Now, I don't want there to be a misunderstanding or a misconception that those three represent everybody in that in that inn, because this is a big building. So what I want to bring in, I want to try and clear this up front. I want to bring it into play what I call the background clientele factor. I've kind of named it this grand term, which, or a crowd factor. That let's take two examples. The first, think about a film, and you have the actors. You have the main actors, and you have supporting actors, and you have minor actors. But you also have extras, and you have people, say in a crowd scene, you've got all these people milling about. They're not even talking half an hour, or they're pretending to talk, but that doesn't really count. I don't think you get paid if you pretend talk. I think it's whenever you say a line, you're suddenly on a higher rate. So the majority, like say 95% of the staff on a set are extras. Now that's what will be represented in this tavern inn. When we are the characters are descending down the stairs from their room. It's a 3-story building. They're up on the top floor. They're descending down the stairs. They come into this large eating and drinking hall. There's a lot of noise. People are shouting, on the basis that we already got a large crowd of of effectively extras, and the ones who are what we would classify deemed to be the actors are the player characters, who represent people like Brad Pitt and Al Pacino and all that sort of stuff, and the occupants that we generate. So these are individual NPCs of interest. These would be classified as NPCs. So those three are just the ones that sort of stand out in the crowd, and will potentially have some interactive value for us. But just in general, in the kind of, to get yourself into the feeling of and the atmosphere of the place, just think of yourself in, let's go to my other example. You remember the prancing pony in Brie, and in the Peter Jackson film, you had the hobbits, and there was all that kind of noise in the background, and they were all dancing on the table, and Frodo's getting a bit carried away. He's had a bit too much of this Brie beer, and he's got a wee bit wobbly. He falls off the table, the ring comes up. But just remember all those people in that bar, that tavern. Now, the only ones that are of any importance, there was the 4 hobbits, obviously. There was Butterbur, and I think he had like a servant. I don't know. I can't remember what his name was. He stabled all the horses or ponies, and then obviously there was Aragorn, who was sitting in the corner. And remember, there was those other two. There was those 2 strangers. There was one that was almost like a bit like a half orc, kind of weird kind of looking guy, and then I think there was the local chap that was very bad to build the horse that Sam in the end got. So that's what we're talking. That's 2 staff, 2 other NPCs, and Aragorn, and the 4 hobbits. So that kind of represents the ones that were of interest. The rest, all these other people that were kind of dancing about and talking and laughing and whatever, they're just part of the kind of fabric of, they're part of the crowd. So we don't have any interaction with them, but they are there. So it's not like we're in this great big empty room in the Green Dragon. We're actually in a kind of throbbing community of people. So I just wanted to clarify, in case anybody thought we were going to be standing in some empty hall. with just about a few guys sitting around tables. That would look rather kind of weird. We're actually a thriving atmospheric inn. What else? Oh yeah. I felt a bit sorry for one of our characters, our NPCs that we generated. I think we were a bit harsh on Seymour yesterday. You will recall that he was the male manservant of our landlord Fredegar and our landlady Martha. And I think I was a bit, I didn't assign him a personality. And I just assumed from his name that he was a bit of a, I don't know, a bit of a kind of grey, maybe not dishonest, but on the margins type of character. I think that was a bit unfair. So as in recompense for that, I am going to generate his personality. Let's see what we can come up with. And I think I owe it to Seymour to do this. And I think just as a point, I think whenever you generate any personalities, any NPCs in this type of environment, going to this table is probably quite a good thing to do as a basic. And then you can always, these other things like disposition and intellect and energy and that type of stuff, they might be useful in just giving a bit of nuance to if you feel necessary. And you'll find that my process is very kind of not slow and methodical for just because I'm slow and methodical, but there is a reason. It's almost like think of things going in slow motion. We're just developing. It doesn't have to be bang, 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 bang. It's not like this kind of an Instagram, TikTok type thing where everything is instantaneous. Let's just view this as a kind of slow burn. So we have a D12 and a D6. I always have to check whether it's in the camera. 11. He is, oh, that's nice. Look, trusting. So poor old Seymour, all is forgiven. That's quite a nice trait to have. So he's probably quite a nice, well, as the assumption, maybe he's just a bit naive, but let's put trusting. And we'll assume that it's on the nice side of trusting. He's a loyal, solid chap. He's not some chap. I think we were saying he was skulking around last time, which is a bit okay. Yeah. Now this I wanted to when we were doing the entertainers and thinking about entertainment. I remembered that let's say we want to consider this entertainment dimension more in general. The Dungeon Master's Guide does actually have some specific bits concerning what the sort of things you'd be doing and the first one that comes to mind is on page 82. And that is the interestingly titled Effects of Alcohol and Drugs. Now, I am not going to condone these. Maybe alcohol fine in moderation, but definitely not drugs. So, your Uncle Brian says, children don't take drugs. That's the message. But certainly on the alcohol side, it's got its intoxication. And it has effects on things like, maybe some of the NPCs, they start to become a bit more kind of a bit more crazy when they have a few of the Hawksmoor beers. And then there's recovery from intoxication. So I was thinking more of this in the context of, say, a drinking game. So the characters have been challenged to, remember that one in Lord of the Rings? I think it was after the Battle of Helm's Deep, and they're all back in Edoras, and they're having a great big kind of celebration. And Gimli is having a bit of a game with with Legolas. And Legolas, it's not even I think he's getting a tingling in his fingers after about 20 drinks or something. And Gimli's getting really worse for wear. He would probably the next day have this as an effect, or a bit of a recovery time. So he was probably, there's a category here called comatose. And the recovery time's 7 to 10. Now that's probably for a fit young adult, but I tell you, if I was probably comatose at my age now, it would be a longer, well, it's 7 to 10 days. But so that I thought that was quite interesting, having that alcohol dimension, and playing that in. So maybe there's a drinking game in prospect at some stage. The other one was it's page 215, and this is something that we actually did when we were characters. I remember we were a bit down on our luck, so the worst thing you can do when you're down in your luck and you're in an inn is start gambling, because no one ever wins, and we didn't. I think we lost even more money, and then we were beholden to the people that we lost to. So we thought we were going to get rich quick, and we didn't. We were in trouble, so we had to do all sorts of stuff for them, and to pay off the debt. But as a side, these were games that we were into, so it's much more kind of, I don't know, craps, and it's almost like you're in a casino type thing. So it didn't really have maybe that kind of medieval feel to it, but maybe some of these things were played, with dice, and maybe cards as well. I don't know how much medieval stuff. But that got me thinking about any other type of games. And interestingly, when I was looking at what sort of medieval games they did play, and there was variations of checkers, which is like, we call it drafts in Britain, and chess, which is, everybody seems to know about chess, and backgammon. And they've all got kind of funny names, like foxes and tails and that type of stuff. But it almost got me thinking that it's not really like when you say the characters are playing a board game. It's not like they're sitting down with a few dwarves and playing a game of Squad Leader, or they're not sitting around having a game of Monopoly or Catan, or these are very, very much kind of rooted in the environment. I do actually remember, just as an aside, when I used to get the White Dwarf, which was the UK's equivalent of the Dragon magazine. I do have a lot of the back issues, and again, they're out in the garage. And actually, as a feature, they'd be quite nice to just go through each issue of them and just have a bit of a discussion, because they really do bring back a lot of the memories of how we used to play AD&D, and a lot of the other role-playing games back in the early 1980s, late 70s, 1980s. But there was, I remember it was they had a little cartoon feature towards the end, I think it was, in most things, and it was these players. You saw the actual players. They're like a wizard, and there was a fighter and a cleric, and they're all sitting around a table. And one of them this guy comes up and says, "What are you doing?" He says, "Oh, we're playing this great game. It's a role-playing game. You play the parts of accountants and management consultants and engineers in this technological society, and it's great fun." So I thought that was quite funny. But that's a bit of digression. Just to continue with the entertainment theme, but before we get back to our I thought, talking about the entertainment, I think that and I hadn't really thought about this before, and this again reminded me of some of the stuff we used to do in Chivalry and Sorcery, because it was almost a complete thought out feudal world. We could expand the horizons a bit more, maybe further down the line, and maybe to have some mini games based on this medieval culture and setting. Now I'm thinking in terms of festivals and also events. So the particular event I was thinking of, you could maybe have archery contests. So that you could develop little rules on that. Lord Seward could organise an archery contest, and you have to fire at different ranges and use different types of like crossbows, and um, the +2 javelin's not allowed because that's too, it's an unfair advantage. Like magic weapons aren't included, that type of stuff. And also jousting. We did a lot of, I can remember because in chivalry and sorcery, class, actual social class was such an important factor. So to play a really good fighter, they tended to be of the knightly class. So you were a knight, you were a trained fighter from the age of probably 12, and you were hardened as an apprentice, as a knight errant, and then you became a full-blown knight. And one of the, I suppose I was going to say perks, I don't know whether sitting on a horse and charging at 30, 40 miles per hour against another horseman with a pointy stick is a real perk, but you get to do jousting, and then with the melee afterwards in hand-to-hand combat. So we did participate in a lot of jousting, and maybe that's the type of thing, just a bit of colour. You could have some jousting going on later on. And then you get all the stuff with like jugglers and acrobats. And again, this is a magical world. I bet that the magic act is really good in this type of culture. If you get an illusionist, they really are. It's not just practical effects. This is real magic. So that could be something to think about. And of course, there's the aspect of jesters and fools, which I've never really got in. I don't really see the point of them, but they actually had a medieval. There was almost like an outlet. It was a kind of escape valve type thing for society, where you had one individual who could really poke at the ruler, and that's what they did. They tended to. If you have ever seen King Lear and Shakespeare, the fool, the jester, is always sort of not. It's almost like criticizing the king and that type of thing. And they were the only people that could do that. So it was almost like a social, a valve type thing. Okay. I think that covers everything I wanted to do just before we get actually stuck into this occupant process. The override that I've got, I just jotted down here. It's probably not. It's in my notes, but it's not typed up into this. The override is ignore no strange results that are beyond sense. Now that could probably be a rule for anything, but I think in this instance, if we get like a witch, an old hag appearing in the thing, and it's that type of stuff, because that is one of the encounter categories. So we have to use our discretion when we interpret them. So 9 times out of 10, I'm hoping that we can put a spin on this information that's generated randomly, and we can kind of massage it into a realistic kind of I suppose, so that it makes sense, and it's not feeling so contrived that it's ridiculous. So I suppose the proof is in the pudding. Let's go back to our starting in. So we have the Green Dragon as a recap. I did a wee bit more expansion of just the building. It's a 3-story building. The top 2 are bed chambers for the guests and staff. There's an eating, drinking hall, beam ceilings. It's actually, I think we described it as being quite grand. So they've kind of recycled a lot of the masonry in the building, in the town, when they've come to resettle it, and they've kind of knocked down old villas, and probably the baths have gone, but they've used a lot of the stone, and they've given it kind of like nice features and whatever. So they've really kind of gone to town on the inn. So it really is quite historic, some of the stuff inside. So the internal decor is really good. There's a kitchen, there's a pantry, there's stabling behind. On the food side, not only have we got some really good trout and game and the beer on tap, but we've actually got, like, for breakfast, we've got the porridge, we've got the bread and cheese. This was interesting. I thought there's quite a religious community, and there's quite a strong following of, even though it's lawful and neutral, because the overall pantheon is ruled by a lawful good alignment, there is quite a representation of this chap here, Alaron, the pantheon, Alaron the righteous. He's the pantheon leader, and that's lawful good, and he heads up this pantheon that Bane is included in as well. And they are far more into ceremony and whatever, and they have a bit of an influence on this town and this region. Even though it's a kind of untamed marches, it still has an overall stamp, which gets stronger and stronger the closer you get back to the kingdom. But even here on the periphery of the kingdom, it's this kind of ritualistic impact that it has, influence it has on the society. So there's quite often a morning mass, or masses, maybe that's a kind of more modern term, but as a ceremony in the inn every morning. So they have to get all the breakfast stuff cleared up for that. There's stew constantly simmering all day. There's quite a lot of there's lunch into the early afternoon. The actual clientele is mostly craftsmen, artisans, labourers. That's mainly their customer base. So that's the crowd that's in the place most of the time. And because people have difficulty, they work long hours. They don't really have the cooking facilities at home, so a lot of them actually use this inn as a place to go. There's a curfew in effect, which was a standard in medieval times. So if you turned up at the inn, say at almost before dusk, you would not get an evening meal probably. You'd probably just get cheese and bread. You might not even be allowed entry into the inn if it was after dark, and curfew comes down. So say it comes to dark time, you may be allowed another hour in the inn, and then you have to disperse and go back to home. But that was just a bit more of the background. So let's have a look at these occupants and see what we're going to generate, and actually put this mechanism to the test. So we had 3 occupants. So if we put type here, and we do our first one, which is going to be a D10. So let's see what we get. Our first 5, official. Okay, we'll just put that down there, official. Now I'm not even going to, at this stage, going to even ask what that means. I'm just going to make a note of each. Second one is going to be D10, 8, men general. So I'll put men. And our third one, 9. It's on the men again. Okay. Right. I have this sub-rule that there's a 20% chance each occupant is in a group of up to 3 additional individuals. So if they're on their own, that means they're interacting with the overall crowd, but they kind of stand out as far as the characters are concerned. They see them as maybe special points of interest. So let's get our percentage dice, and blue is the 10s. So 20% for him, so he's on his own. This men is on his own, and this men is, yes, they're all on their own. Okay, so we'll put solo, solo, solo. Now, because we've got these 2 entries here, and it's the men general table. This was the table that I highlighted the other day, which has got this breakdown. I've gone through that entire list, and everywhere I've underlined in red, that means I've taken that directly from the Dungeon Master's Guide. So I was trying to get a kind of feeling for just exactly what is based on, I suppose, actual canon material. And if you looked up, say, alchemist, you'll see an entry in the Dungeon Master's Guide. Likewise for armourer, noblemen's in the city encounters, it's a scribe, it's all that kind of stuff. And anything that's left is something that I've included. I did see that I had missed out blacksmith for some reason. Maybe I thought that I was covered in armourer. So I need to add in blacksmith at some stage. And also I had this one for slaver, and I wasn't sure whether, I think originally I had it in as representing kind of raiders from barbarian kingdoms coming in and capturing people and taking them away and then selling them off in foreign lands. But I know what the concept of slavery is not a nice one to kind of consider, certainly these days, and any time really. But when you think of the actual feudal period, there wasn't any real form of slavery. The nearest you got to it was serfdom. So that represented a form of service that you were kind of you were tied to the land. So as a serf, you as a peasant, you had a liege lord, and you gave him service. So you say worked 3 days on his fields and 4 days on your own fields. And during times of war, you did the 40 days service and fought with his armies. And you also had to give him certain tithes and taxes and that sort of thing. And in return, he gave you protection. So that was the feudal system in a nutshell. They were not like an arbitrary thing. Say you imagine this evil empire that we had, the Acheron. They probably had slavery, and the masters could do anything they wanted to those individuals. They had the slaves had no rights. They were brutally treated, whereas serfs have some kind of protection, have some rights. Also, if you look at it in a town context, like an apprentice, they would be like an indentured kind of. They would have an indenture apprentice, and they would be given to a master who would take care of them, feed them, whatever. But they were kind of almost tied to that master until they became a guildsman or they became a master themselves. This form, actually, I know a wee bit about this because we're looking at the kind of colonial history of Britain, and it's actually, when it comes to North America and the colonies, this form of indenture was actually a major mechanism for poorer classes and like the working classes and peasants to get a passage over to the United States, or it would be in the British colonies in that stage, and serve an indenture of maybe 5, 10, 15 years, and as a means of paying off whatever costs had been incurred. And they would work as like domestic servants and maybe hand labourers, or also these kind of craftsmen type thing. So I don't know why I've gone into that in detail. I think I just really wanted to get rid of it. So I could replace that with blacksmith. It's not applicable in this world, so that I've decided. Okay, now what we need to do is decide who these people are. So our first one, this man here, and again I'm going to go for the female split soon, so don't worry. And also demi-human. I've got to do a demi-human check. Maybe we should do that first. Yeah, let's do that first. So there's a 10% chance, it's a 1 in 10 that this is a lady. Nope. There's a 1 in 10 chance that this is a lady. Nope. And there's 1 in 10 chance that this is a female. Nope. there's a 1 in 10 chance that this is demi-human. Nope. Demi-human. Nope. And demi-human. Ah, right. Okay. So we've got one. And what we'll do is we've got 2 rolls to do on this particular one. So let's do the first man here, who is a man. And we've got this table. So we roll a percentage. Yeah, there we go. 1 in 10 demi-human, 1 in 10 encounters with or include females. So that is more general for our overall encounters thing, but I'm using this for this particular in-generation process. So we've got an 88. Oh, we've got an adventure. That's interesting. So this is an adventure. And we'll calculate what they are we'll probably use the tables at the back in the Dungeon Master's Guide. And this demi-human is going to be, and again we just use this men's table. You can see that's a 97. Oh, they're an adventurer too. My goodness, coming out the woodwork. So that's an adventurer. So we have an official who is probably going to be, it's either going to maybe one of the king's officials, and he's on a visit to Marchton on the king's business, or maybe he's part of Seward's. He has, I suppose, some form of bureaucracy. Now it's not going to be extensive, but it might be a local official. And this adventurer, let's do him. So we look at this thing. Actually, just while we're doing this, just talking about the old crowd factor, I would have thought that, say in a place like Marchton, which has got 600 in the population, and probably about 100 troops from the host, Seward's host, that's about 700. I think I did I did do a calculation in my rules that occupants would be times 20 the group. So we've got currently, that'll be 3 times 20. We've got 60 other. So the crowd is 60. Everybody dancing and listening to the music and drinking the beer and having a nice time. That's 60. But we're focusing on these particular individuals. And the race of the individual, let's do his class first. So the first one, the middle one, we'll roll this percentage. This is quite exciting because wasn't really expecting to get so many adventurers, but there we go. He is a 19. Ooh, he's a druid. Okay. Druid. That's interesting. And this one here. Let's see what he is. Fighter. Okay. And it's probably going to be multi-class. So let's put fighter down just now, and let's just see what race this individual is. Now the fighter just goes on the standard table. We'll remember when we were doing our half elf, it was a bit different. 69 is a half elf. Okay, half elf. Half elf. And there's an 85% chance that he is multi-class. Yep. So it's a fighter something. So I think that was in the followers bit from memory. Let's go and check him. So we may as well do all the kind of nitty gritty, sort it all out first. Half-elf can be a half-elf cleric ranger, so he's not one of them. Half-elf cleric fighter magic user, so yeah, which is one of the classes I used to be with my Thingol Grey Cloak. Or a fighter thief. So what's 76 to 80, or 81? So that's a 50-50. So let's do a 50-50 on that. So 1 to 5, it's cleric fighter magic user, and anything above it's fighter thief. Yep, it's a fighter thief. So it's just the same as Tristan. He is a fighter thief that has blown into town. Okay. Now, in my guidelines, I did say here, use 2 charts for each individual group. And the second chart that I do, let's see if there's anything else I need to cover. Yeah, I'll come back to the patron thing later. We didn't actually have an example of a patron, but I can explain that. And we didn't have a foreigner, because if we'd rolled a foreigner, we could have done the origin check in the direction, but that didn't happen. So I've got this 20, I roll a d20 for each of those individuals. The official, the druid, and the fighter thief. And what I ask is, what are they doing? And this just gives a kind of a high level, I'm sure I've gleaned this from in fact, a lot of these ideas I'm using, I've taken them from bits and bobs all over the internet. So there's no way I would give I have a copyright on any of these. So please feel free just to do anything you want with them. I am going to upload them onto the internet. As I said, once my son shows me how to do this. But in the meantime, you've got a first look. So this is hot off the press. Each of these individuals has this almost like a motivation or a reason why they're there in probably Marchton in the first place, and particularly in this inn. Now, usually the reason to be in the inn is pretty obvious. So if you're visiting, that's where you're going to stay, because there's not really anywhere else to stay. But I think it's interesting for some of the other things, because I do remember there was for some reason I in my first inn I rolled up, I actually got a half orc, and I don't know what he was. I think he was a fighter or something, and he was just sitting in the corner, and he had with a pet animal. And there was no interaction with him. He just sat there with this pet animal, just looking around, and it was quite extraordinary. So we might get something like that. You get one person just sitting there, doing nothing. Right. Let's see what this official is all about. So let's roll a die 20. So that is these 2 dice here, because I don't actually have a physical d20. 16. Oh, escorting someone. Okay. So you see, when this happens, it says there's a leading statement, escorting someone. So whenever it has something like that, like a possessive pronoun or something or whatever, we've got to generate somebody else. So we'll do that afterwards. Right, let's see what our druid is, apart from saving the planet. He is doing an 8. So, right, so I got this. I remember getting this result last time. I had, was it a falconer, or it was some guy, and he instantaneously took he was a rival of one of the characters, or he took a dislike, and he stormed out of the inn as soon as he saw the characters come in, and he managed to scuttle out without being seen. But I took a note of him for future reference. And I thought, if I have any more encounters with, yeah, I think he was actually a forester. Listen, I'm just going to check my notes, because I like to be on it, and not just make it up. Yeah, he was a hunter. He was a hunter. Was it? Yeah, there was it was a pilgrim half orc with a pet animal. So I'll just quickly show you how it worked in action last time. I had a hunter, and he was a character's rival, and he left immediately. But I noted him for future. Whenever I got an encounter with a hunter, there's a chance that it was going to be him. I had this pilgrim character, so I thought, yes, I'm going to get some really nice sort of middle of the road, kind of almost like an accountant human. I got this horrible half orc with a pet animal, and that was it. He just sat there with his pet animal for no reason, just sitting in the inn. I got a patron, so that's I can come to that rule. And he had a mission that was succeeding with the mission. In fact, he turned out to be a nobleman with guards. So he provided information to the rest of the party. I had a herbalist there who was drunk. And he was causing I think he was so drunk that he didn't really cause us any trouble. It was just a bit kind of amusing and funny. You know, you can get kind of violent drunks, but he was actually quite funny. I think he maybe taking too many of these herbs. And then I had a group of men, and this was where I had the falconer, and he had 2 shepherds that he was with. And I think he was trying to impress them with his falconing skills. And he wanted adventurers, and he was really trying hard to come up to the adventurers and say, I want you to do something for me, and whatever. But he felt kind of in the shadow of this other patron who was the nobleman, and he thought, it's a bit too beyond my status. I don't really. And he kind of danced around, and the adventurers were just kind of ignoring him. And I think he felt a wee bit grumpy about that afterwards. And then there was a merchant who actually lived here, and he didn't really do anything as well. So it's not like these individuals all have to interact with the party. I was using a bit of an oracle at that stage. I don't intend to do that with this. I had a yes, no, and all that stuff, which helped a bit, but I don't think I really need an oracle. So that shows you how it worked in practice then. So, but we've got our own one to play with. So I've got escorting someone. I've got, in a long-winded way, I've got character's rival or takes a dislike. So what's it going to be? Should we have that as a two choice or dislike? See, if he's a rival, he knows the person. So would it make sense that there's a druid that lives around here? Maybe he's come across the elf in a past, up that military road, and I don't know. You'd have to kind of shoehorn in some information on that. So let's just do the binary thing first on the. We'll say 1 to 3 is a rival, and the rest he just has a dislike. So yeah, he dislikes. And who's he going to dislike on our party? Let's have a look at our party. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He takes a dislike to Tristan. Okay. So he dislikes Tristan. Well, he does that at his peril because Tristan's got his 18 strength. And I know people have been making comments about this, whether he's entitled to that because he's multi-class of getting this exceptional strength. And I've read the rules. I can't see anywhere where it says if you're a multi-class, you can get the full benefits of being a fighter. So it's usually just a fighter, like rangers and paladins can't get it. But it doesn't actually say anything about if you're a fighter thief. I was assuming that because they're trained as a fighter as well as a thief, they would get full entitlement to all the fighters' abilities and also all the thieves' abilities. There wouldn't be a case of it's compromised, but I bow to knowledge on that one. Okay, so we've got, and I think on the levels of these guys, because I haven't really thought about the mechanic on that, so maybe I'll come back to that. But as a kind of I don't know, as a placeholder, let's put in that they're probably under level 3 or minus. So we'll say 3 up to 3, because I think otherwise you get too many overpowered characters all over the place. And level up to 3. Now I haven't really thought about the generation of levels, and I might come back to that. So I think that's kind of work in progress for me to put up to 3 for those. I don't think it's really important at this stage. So what else have we got to do? We've got to do this guy's motivation. I've just seen that my battery's getting a bit low. Sorry if you just bear with me a second. I forgot to put my, I think that's my plug going in now. Yeah, sorry about that. In fact, I'm just seeing the time now. I'm going on a bit. I'll quickly just do his motivation, and then I think I might call it a day for today, and then do a kind of wrap up next time. So let's do his motivation. He's a 10. He wants adventurers to perform a mission. Bingo. So we've got someone. So he wants adventurers. Right. So in summary, we have done, this is basically overall the generation process, and what I do from that is I tease out what not to any great extent what the backstory is, and I try and come up with some kind of connections, and we can role play through that, and when we do any interactions, we use some of the stuff in here. So we've got the NPC things, so we can give them personalities, and we've also got under the combat area, we've got this fantastic pummeling. Never really got round to getting our heads around pummeling rules. First time round, we're going to definitely do it on this time. As rules is written. This table, which is great. This will be our talisman. This will be our central table that will define. We won't need any oracles. We won't need any fancy tables. This will be the one that will determine everything in this game world. Okay, I think I'll leave that there just now. I think we've covered quite a lot, and I can see that the time is ticking on. Okay, thanks for your time, and I'll see you next time.